Welcome back to our ongoing work and progress through the Gospel of Matthew. In this reading, we are going to be looking at Matthew chapter 8 and verse 4. I will be reading from the New Revised Standard Version. Then Jesus said to him, "See that you say nothing to anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses commanded as a testimony to them." It can be assumed or implied that Jesus was a social revolutionary, that Jesus came to earth to bring change. Jesus came to overthrow all the unjust social constructions of his world. There is a market out there for the idea of Jesus as the agent of revolution and reform. Yet here in verse 4, we see how wrong that view is. You see, there are two extremes we can paint of Jesus. One is the view that sees him as a social revolutionary, and on the other end of the spectrum is those that want to see Jesus as a person who works completely and seamlessly within the world of his day, and that Jesus' death in that sense is simply as a victim of mob violence. Jesus had a balanced approach. Jesus, as in our verse here, worked within the structures of his day, even if he did not fully agree with them. Jesus did not get caught up in the trap that changing the world would change humanity. Jesus knew that the problem with the world was within humanity, and he knew that because of this, he would be put to death. One of the most significant events that came as a result of the work of Martin Luther. Luther's dates are 1483 to 1546. He is considered the father of the Protestant Revolution, Protestant Reformation, that revolution that started when he posted the 95 Theses in 1517 on the door of Wittenberg Castle. What happened in the 1520s, 1524 and 1525, was a social revolution in Germany. In particular, it's what's called the Peasant Revolt. Now, you have to understand that what Luther did stirred up forces that were latent within German society. The life of a peasant in the German lands at that time, that part of the world which we now know as Germany, was not very good at all. And some saw the teaching of Luther as a justification for taking up arms and revolting against the social structures of the day. The peasant revolt took the sense of revolution that Luther brought to the church of his day and applied it to the social conditions. Luther feared that what they were doing was going to soil the gospel message, that the gospel message would be compromised. Like Jesus, Luther was not interested in social revolution. Luther understood that the real revolution must be in the heart of individuals, men and women, boys and girls. Now, on the other end of the spectrum is where you have a passive church. The church is subservient to the wider culture it is in. To be a faith has no real impact on the world, an individual, or the church. This is as wrong a result of as the view of the church is there to foment revolt. Luther is often castigated by historians for his lack of support for the peasant revolt. In a way, it's funny because if Luther had supported the peasants, he would have been crushed as they were, and his impact on German life minimized. Luther would have an enduring impact on German society, in large part because of his advocacy for the legitimacy of clerical marriage. This in turn made the family an important unit in German society and in the church in particular. Luther raised the dignity of marriage and the family, and this would impact Germany for centuries. Go back to our verse and look at what Jesus told the leper. You see, it was not just about him being healed, and that was it. The leper was to go and share what God had done. This testimony would in turn impact the priests he went to. The work of God in our lives must not be of us alone. We must allow that work to be seen and heard in the world around us. We must allow that God takes what he has done in us and use it to impact our world. There was a priest that day who heard something unbelievable, and surely he would have had questions about what God was up to. The faith may not change the world in the way that the world once changes, but understand that it does change the world, and it changes the world in the way that God wants it changed.